Do you know what's actually happening inside your body every single evening in that last hour before you fall asleep? I didn't, not for years, and it turned out to matter more than almost anything else I was doing. I'm 83, and for years my nightly routine included 2 or 3 glasses of wine. Research on alcohol's effect on the male reproductive system shows a clear, documented impact on testosterone and vascular function once intake moves past moderate. I'm not telling you alcohol is poison, but I had drifted slowly from moderate into something heavier, the way habits often creep without announcing themselves. You've probably got some version of a habit like that, so normal, so built into your evening, you'd never think to question it. That research is what made me finally look at my own habit honestly. In a minute, I'll tell you exactly what I changed. Here's what I eventually learned. An erection depends on 3 systems working together: hormonal, nervous system signal, and blood flow, governed by nitric oxide. Alcohol, in larger amounts, is known to impair vascular function and interfere with sleep quality, and sleep is when most of your testosterone production actually happens. 2 habits I'd never connected, my evening wine and my declining performance, turned out to be quietly linked the whole time. I want to underline that I'm not talking about the occasional drink here or there. I'm talking about a slow creep from moderate into something heavier, spread across enough years that I never noticed the actual trajectory until I sat down and counted honestly, glass by glass, week by week. These days I have more consistent energy than I did before I looked honestly at that habit. I sleep more deeply, waking up less through the night, which I hadn't even realized was a problem until it stopped being one. I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you because I never once suspected my own evening ritual was part of the problem. Looking back, the creep tracked almost exactly with a few stressful years. Nothing dramatic, just ordinary life stress I'd been quietly medicating with an extra glass here and there. Here's what reframed everything. The blood vessels involved here are some of the smallest in your entire circulatory system, smaller than the ones feeding your heart, so circulation issues tend to show up here first. Researchers who study this treat it as a meaningful early signal. It's one of the reasons doctors who specialize in this area often say that erectile difficulty can act as an early warning sign for cardiovascular problems elsewhere in the body, sometimes showing up years before a heart problem would otherwise become obvious through any other symptom. For 3 years, I slept 3 feet away from my wife, and it felt like 300 miles. She'd fall asleep first. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, wide awake, feeling like a roommate in my own marriage. I thought something was wrong with me. It wasn't weakness, and it wasn't just age. Here's what no one ever sits a man down to explain. This isn't about willpower. It's about specific systems in your body quietly losing steam year after year while nobody tells you it's even happening. The pills my doctor handed me gave me headaches, made my chest feel tight, and honestly, they made me feel like I needed a pill just to feel like a man. I wasn't willing to live like that. There's a gentler way to bring those systems back, without any of that. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore. I'll show you exactly what changed it in this video, and if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below. So here's what I actually did. I cut back, not eliminated, just brought it back down to genuinely moderate amounts, and I paid closer attention to how many nights a week I was drinking at all versus how many I was skipping entirely. That alone made a noticeable difference within about a month. Alongside that, I leaned harder into things that actively supported circulation rather than working against it. Garlic and onion, real amounts, cooked into most dinners. There's a randomized controlled trial on fermented garlic extract showing meaningful improvement in blood flow within 30 minutes of ingestion. And onions bring quercetin, a compound also tied to nitric oxide support. Vegetables rich in dietary nitrate, feeding that same pathway from another direction. A short walk most mornings in real daylight, supporting the blood vessel lining directly. Better, more consistent sleep, once the alcohol wasn't disrupting it as much, which turned out to matter more than I expected on its own. Cutting back on the wine was the one piece that actually took real discipline. Everything else on the list was additive, something new to eat or do. This was subtraction, and subtraction turned out to be a different kind of hard. The kind where you notice the absence every single evening for the first few weeks before it stops registering as an absence at all. My wife and I went to a wedding a few months back, and I was one of the last people still on the dance floor, well past when I
I'm
would have
just
quietly
finishing up my
excused
walk through the
myself to sit
house.
down in
The
previous
weather
years.
outside is beautiful today.
She actually had to ask me to
Yes,
slow
everything
down
is
for
going
once.
great.
I think about a man named Gerald who wrote in, 68, who told me his own nightly habit had crept from 1 drink to 3 over the course of a decade so gradually he'd never noticed the shift, until I mentioned it and he actually counted honestly for the first time. He said the honest counting was more uncomfortable than anything else in the whole process, more uncomfortable even than the actual cutting back turned out to be. If you're on medication for blood pressure or your heart, please hear this clearly. Nothing here replaces your treatment, and you should never stop or change a medication on your own. Mention anything new to your doctor, including any changes to alcohol intake if it's relevant to your medications. Gerald said the counting itself was the real turning point, more than the actual cutting back that followed. It's one thing to vaguely suspect a habit has grown. It's another to write it down, night after night, and see the number in plain black and white on the page in front of you. He told me he still keeps that first week's tally folded in a drawer somewhere, a reminder of exactly where the creep had gotten to before he caught it. He said he pulls it out every so often, mostly to make sure he never lets the number quietly climb back to where it was. What I want you to walk away with is this. Sometimes the thing working against you isn't something missing. It's something already there, so normal you've never once questioned it. I'd spent years looking for something to add, some missing ingredient, when the actual answer was something to quietly subtract instead. That's a harder thing to see in yourself, because subtraction doesn't feel like progress the same way addition does. It just feels like giving something up, right up until you notice everything that comes back once you do. Your erections don't disappear just because you got older. They fade when the systems behind them, blood flow, nitric oxide, hormones, energy, and recovery, slowly stop getting the support they need. Ignore that long enough, and it becomes harder to reverse. That's why I take this concentrated formula every morning. Not one ingredient trying to fix everything, but several working together to support circulation, energy, and drive from the inside out. It's a natural, doctor-backed protocol designed to support pathways your body already knows how to use. No prescription, nothing artificial. Stronger, present, confident again. And unlike the pills I tried, I didn't feel disconnected from my own body. No headaches, just steady, gradual change. My wife noticed before I even said a word. The presentation is linked right below this video. It won't replace your doctor or a healthy lifestyle. It's simply there to support your body. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore, and it's not too late for you. Habits that hurt us slowly rarely announce themselves. They just sit there, disguised as comfort, as something you've earned, until you finally look at them squarely for the first time in years. Mine had been disguised as relaxation for so long that questioning it felt almost like betraying a small, ordinary pleasure, rather than what it actually was. I think about the man I was, pouring a second and third glass without ever looking at it honestly. And I think about the man I am now, who finally did. That's not vanity, that's dignity. I want to be careful here because I'm not telling you alcohol is poison or that you need to give it up entirely. That's not what happened for me. But I had drifted, slowly, from moderate into something heavier, the way habits often creep without announcing themselves, and I never once looked at that creep honestly until I had a real reason to. If you've got a habit so normal you've never questioned whether it's working against you, tell me in the comments. And if this kind of honest self-examination is useful to you, subscribe. There's more of this ahead.